Des Futak here from desfutak.com on day number 20 of my 90-day internet marketing challenge. This is the third session or third part of my Twitter tips. Back in May this year I did actually do a couple of Twitter tutorials on a whiteboard, but this time I'm going to be on a computer screen and just explain a little bit more how I get followers on Twitter and what I do in particular. Now, yesterday you saw me having a look at friendorfollow.com, and that web link will appear at the bottom of the screen in a second. Friend or follow is very useful because it enables you to find out who you are following, who is not following you back. And what you can do, as I said yesterday, you can click on this button here, which will give you an Excel file or comma separated variable file, which you can then examine and sort and decide who you want to follow or not follow. Now, as it turns out, that's not the method that I choose for my process of following or unfollowing people. What I do is first of all I look at the people's photographs, and I tend to weed out the following. I tend to weed out people who don't have a bio photograph. Okay, now the reason for that is because usually those sorts of people don't want to be identified, and as I said yesterday, there are a couple of people who are an exception to that, people who I'm following who I know don't want their photographs shown, and that's fair enough. But generally speaking, if you're on Twitter, you want to be sociable, so having a photograph of yourself in my books is actually a prerequisite. Then the other thing I look at is people who have company logos rather than photographs of themselves. Now, as I say, because Twitter is meant to be primarily a social network, my opinion is that you should be putting a photograph of yourself on there more than having your company logo. By all means, have a separate Twitter account which advertises your company, but I want to be following individuals rather than companies for the vast majority of cases. So I tend to unfollow Twitter accounts where they just have pictures of company logos rather than people's faces. So that's just something, that's a personal preference. And I mentioned yesterday that I was going to show you a tool on how I actually find followers, and what I do there is I use this website called Twollow. That's TWOLLOW, and if you just go to twollow.com and if you log on with your Twitter username and password, you can then for free follow up to 15 people per keyword that you select. So people who are typing in certain keywords I will follow, and these are the ones that I've chosen at the moment. I'm probably going to change this now because I want to change emphasis a little bit in terms of what I'm doing. So these were all created on the 10th of May 2009, and per day I can follow up to 15 people who are mentioning these phrases within their tweets. Now that's very useful if you want to connect with certain people or you want to brand yourself in a certain way in your Twitter account. So as you can see, at most I can follow 45 people per day. Now that's a maximum. It could be higher than, it could be lower than that, depending on who uses the keywords. And if you get a paid version of the Twollow account, I think there's no limit, or there's a very high limit of the number of followers you can gain maximally. So you can use Twollow to do that. There is another one called TweetAdder, which is a very good piece of software. That's a desktop application for Mac and Windows, which will do a very similar thing, but without using a web browser. The advantage of using the web browser tool is that you can use it anywhere in the world where you can find an internet access point. Okay, so these are two tools that I tend to use quite a lot, and I find them very, very useful because they do help you to try and figure out exactly who you want to follow, and also to automate that process. So friendorfollow.com is a very good website, and also Twollow is another one that I use. I did mention briefly about automated feeds and all that kind of thing. Now I've actually got some more information on another YouTube video, so if you view this on YouTube, go to youtube.com/DesFutak. You can see one or two other videos where I go into more depth about using RSS feeds, Google Alerts, Bitly and so on, and I'm going to produce a video. Perhaps I won't do it on YouTube because it will probably be too long, but I'll do a tutorial session on that of say about 20 minutes or so another time. And if you go onto my other YouTube video, which is appearing as a link here on YouTube, you can see that and sign up with your information. I'll post you some info as soon as I've done it. I've been meaning to do it for a long while, but I've been busy with other things. Okay, so those are two very useful tools that I use every day, or more or less every day: Friend or Follow, and Twollow, which you can leave set up. And in fact, I'm going to modify this because I want to change a few words here. And that way you can gradually grow your following, which I prefer, to be honest, rather than rapid following, although I might change my mind on that one later. And that's what I tend to use. Are the two of the key tools that I use, along with things like Twitter feed and Bitly and RSS feeds and so on. So do have a look at my other YouTube videos, and do check out my website desvtech.com for more tips on internet marketing. Thanks very much for listening, and bye for now.